Hey, what's going on, guys? It is OGC here. Today we're going to be talking about how to utilize our building rush as much as possible to get the most bang for our buck. Building rush is one of the most important rushes in the game in the sense that it can make us more powerful overall and boost up our core power. So what do we spend this on? Do we rush buildings? Do we click this and then rush that 5 days, or should we go into our research and find something to rush along as well? And when should we rush this? All of these questions and more will be answered, along with what research should you focus on. So if you guys value this content, if you guys want to know all of these answers and more, please hit the big thumbs up button. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not already. Turn on the notification bell or Monica Kim will hunt you down. And let's get started and jump right in. So there are very specific times when we should rush the buildings. Typically towards the beginning of the game when our alchemy, or not alchemy, when our academy is maxed out across the board, and towards the beginning of the game because that is the most important time. When it comes to why somebody would rush the castle, it's simply because you can get higher level troops faster. So, for example, this is a level 13 Shroom Lord. If we look at this level 13 Shroom Lord that happens to be inside of my garrison, it has pretty much 260,000 attack. If I get one castle level up on my opponent, with all my same research in temple, it now becomes 326,000. So it jumped by what is that, like 66,000 attack, which is significant. To get that type of jump via temple or chakra or whatever, without anything else, would be we're talking thousands upon thousands of dollars difference. So if you can be ahead of your opponents on the building curve, then you can do very well. And here's the problem: your opponents will catch up eventually when it comes to castle levels. So should you prioritize your castle level? If you're starting out on a new server, or if you need short-term wins, then I would say yes. And by short-term wins, I mean you're on a server, you're fighting to gain control of a kingdom, you're fighting to stay alive. If you don't do this, then you will be living in the capital. At that point in time, in assuming you can't migrate or do a server transfer, at that point in time, it might be beneficial to do that. However, long term, and this is a very long term game, long term, you are going to get way more benefit from rushing research. Why? Because the castle levels max out, and they max out relatively quickly. I know it can seem like an eternity at times, but they will max out relatively quickly when in comparison to research. Research takes forever. I'll show you guys what I mean. I have bought from the shops. I'll show you for today. I bought from the shops for a year and a half, 1 year and 6 months. All of these 30-minute rushes, every shop request. When I was out of the country, in a totally remote place, I still logged on 3 times a day to buy these. I have never missed the shop. So, that being said, all of that put together, and I'll show you exactly what my researches look like. I am not maxed out on my researches. Look at my siege, 178. That's pitiful. I don't care about siege. Some people do. I don't. That's not good. When it gets even worse when we look at the hero research. It takes way longer to fully max out the hero research. I can tell you exactly when I hit castle level 40. I hit castle level 40 in July of 2018. So from July 2018 until this most recent patch came out, which was in May. I think it was May, maybe the end of April. Call it the end of April. That's plus 5. For 9 months, I had nothing going on with building. So whatever I did put into my building rushes, which I did put in quite a bit, that was all wasted because I was going to hit that milestone anyways. So I would have been better off putting that into research. Now I only put it into research a little bit for the first couple levels with this new thing, which I'll explain why. But you can save yourself a lot of time with the buildings if you queue up properly. So what I mean by queue up properly is you'll want to go to a city that has building rush spots. It takes 10% of the building time off. So I'll show you what I mean by that. In here, if you move on to one of those tiles, you get 10% faster building. Anytime you are building anything, assuming that you control one of these cities, and if you do not, you should probably control one, just move on onto that spot, queue up everything that you need to build, and go from there. Also, when it comes to building, only build what you need. Do not build a bunch of useless stuff. So, what I mean by that is the priorities for things to build. Number one, always your alchemy, or I'm sorry, academy. I don't know why I'm messing up on those words so much. Always prioritize building your academy. That way you can do research. Number two, build your troops. Get your troops up. If the next level pops up for your troops, build that. After that, if you still need to get enough, I don't even know what it's called, prosperity. If you need to get more prosperity, go with your a workshop or your hospital or your race's equivalent of that. Do not waste your time building your gate. Do not waste your time building anything else. Nothing else matters as much as that. Your warehouse, who cares? Somebody plunders you, go plunder them back. And especially now that they changed the thing with the shielding, getting resources from other people is not hard. Getting gold, elixir, and lumber, who cares? All of that stuff comes so easily by playing the game that the only buildings you should prioritize building is your castle level number one, research, and then your troop levels. After that, if you need more prosperity, get the hospital and or workshop. Every time you can start your next level for your castle, do that. That will help you out. If you spend your time building everything, it's going to set you back tremendously in the game. Don't waste your time doing that. It will catch up with you in the future and you will be behind. Art of Conquest is like a wave or a bell curve, and you want to be on the ahead side. So when it comes to research, for research, when you queue up, you will always want to move on to a faster research spot. You can queue up all of your research. Make sure you guys move off the spots. There's no reason to sit there. I do sit on my governor tile with research, and I try not to be too self-centered or vain or yeah. I don't like to put myself on a pedestal at all. But as far as the citadel spot with the research, and I'm pretty sure everyone in my house or most people would agree with it, I've earned this spot through the sacrifices I made in game. But that's besides the point. Move on to the spot, queue up, and then move off. There's no reason to stay on these spots after you queue up. With the research, you'll want to focus on both army and hero. So when it comes down to it, you'll want to be on the spot. If you guys can get positions such as Magister, Scholar, Chancellor, if you're building, get those as well. If you can get Emperor buffs such as Oracle or Land Surveyor or any of the other ones that give you the buffs, stack all those up. So for example, right now I have 5 days and 13 hours of rush. Every time I get rushed, there's not a reason to spend it. It's a very valuable resource. The only time I should consider spending this is when I happen to have the Magister position, I'm on a research tile, I have my research dragon out, and maybe if I can get Oracle, etc. Once I have all of those things so that I get the best bang for my buck when it comes to the research, that's when I should use the rush. And I should queue up everything under those settings, having Magister and or Scholar, being on a research spot, having the research dragon out. When I queue up on that, those are the things I should rush, and then re-queue up everything once I'm out of rush. Prioritize your rush and come up with goals for research. Uh, so just to recap before we jump into this next phase of figuring out what to actually research, um, and for this one, I'm going to primarily only talk about the army. I'll save the hero research for another video. Just to recap, rushing castle levels, very short-term benefits. You might have a higher level troop than an enemy that can give you a massive bonus in the short term. Long term, everybody's castle is going to be maxed out, and then research is going to be what matters, along with everything else in the game. But research matters a lot more long term. This is a very long term game. For example, I finished castle level 40 in July of 2018. I didn't have to start building anything ever again until a few weeks ago. So find out what your purpose is when it comes to all of that. If you have to play short term, then you're making a sacrifice for your team, or you just have so much money that it doesn't matter. Again, if somebody's a super whale and you're spending like $1,000 a day, these videos probably aren't the ones for you. So I'm talking to in general for people. So I would highly recommend plan for the long term. So find out what is the best plan of action, and then focus on getting all of the buffs that you can, in only using your rushes when you have all of the necessary buffs, as many as you possibly can. Do not use it otherwise. There are some exceptions. Say that there's 26 minutes left on something. You have that the free 20-minute zone, and you know that you're going to be at work for the next 2 hours, so you're going to miss that out. It might be worth it to spend 6 minutes of rush to save 26 minutes overall, and those types of little things can also help, but they're pretty minute. They're awesome if you catch them. But let's jump into the next thing, because I just advocated wicked hard for research. So I kind of want to tell you guys and show you guys what type of research and how to determine what type of research to do for your army. I'll do the hero research stuff in another video. So let's jump into that. Hey guys, so before I begin, I'm going to tell you exactly what I did and where it's gotten me now. When I started this game, people told me to pick 2 units to rush. Granted, there was no hero research, so they told me, hey, OGC, pick 2 main army units to rush and max out. And what they meant by that was, no, every time the alchemy level, not alchemy, the academy level increased, before I did anything else with research, I maxed out those that new tier for 2 units, and then I'd work on whatever else that I felt like it. So what I did was I picked swordsmen because I was human forever, and I also picked archers. So I picked these 2. And what that means is, at the time I was human, and I thought I would be human forever. However, one thing about Art of Conquest, you will have to change races if you want to progress fast through the void and or accomplish different things in the game. So by picking these 2, it meant that as a dwarf, I had max research in riflemen and bombers, which meant that because of my selection at the beginning of the game, playing dwarf, I would be at a big disadvantage. My back line, the riflemen and bombers, were very strong. However, my front line was super weak, meaning my mechs had very little research and my miners had very little research. So it kind of ruled dwarf out for me. So I could not really do much with dwarf. It wasn't necessarily a huge option for me. Next, for Lich. So if I want to go Lich, there's Warlocks and Scorpions because they line up with the Archers and Swordsmen as far as research. The research gets transferred when you change races to whatever that troop converts into. So for Archers to Warlocks, that's cool. I can take that. And Swordsmen to Scorpions. That is awesome. So I could get away with doing Lich, mostly because I'd use Scorpions for PvP. If I was going to attack Stronghold, I'd use Skeletons, and that didn't really matter too much if they died. It was just silver skeletons. They just had to get me to the wall. And for the spiders, it just meant that my spiders were slightly weaker, but all that mattered to me was having the strong front line and having my heroes carry. So having the Scorpions max out for me got me by with Lich. When it comes to Rockin', it meant that I had to, I had the biggest benefits with crossbowmen and monks. If you watch most PvPs now, it will probably be ninjas and samurai. So this kind of put Rockin' out of the window a little bit for me. Hence why I don't have much experience with Rockin' and I'm not super confident offering too much advice on Rockin', simply because of that. Then when it comes to Sliff, that means that I got benefits from their archers and their trees, which is part of the reason why my trees are bomb diggity bomb. Yo. So I still think that it's important to pick two types of troops to prioritize for army. Um, if you can get away with three, get away with three up until the point that you have to consolidate down to two because the research becomes so long. Um, well, once the research starts taking weeks and weeks and weeks, and you're leveling up your academy faster than you can keep up with your research, then I would highly recommend prioritizing two. Preferably one which would be your main tanking units, and the second being your main range units. Whatever that looks like for your race. Of course, there are certain buffs that certain key elements of research that you'll want. So say that I do go rockin', I want to max out samurais because samurais are just awesome, and I want to max out ninjas because ninjas are just awesome. However, I'll still need enough points in my turtle dragon to give the double war drum their boost and to um, help with moral collapse for the ninjas and things like that. So there are keystone research things that you'll want. If you read through the researches and you see one, and it's like, oh my god, that seems like it's so overpowered. It's probably pretty overpowered, or something that you should consider getting or asking about in the OGC community chat. So that being said, depending on what race you start with and what race you really like in those two units, that can drastically impact your conversions and what races you can switch to. Is one of the things with the game right now, with the state of the game, is there is so much changes when it comes to the balance over time that uh, Lich is now going to dominate everything. So you'll want max spider research, you'll want max scorpion research, unless you're going for a skeleton route, which then you'll want the warlock and skeletons. Um, but with the spider bus, we'll want spiders. If we focus on the spiders, that means when we change races, say we change to rockin', that just means our turtle's going to be super good. Cool, your turtle can be great, but if your front line is garbage, you're going to lose. Or you say you switch to the Sliff, but you max out the spiders because Lich has been overpowered for the past 4 months. When we go to Sliff, that means our mana dragon is going to be super super strong, but our trees and our huntresses are going to be garbage. You're going to lose. In dwarf, they can do some fun things with tanks if you go with like a tank mech thing, but it's something to be aware of. Don't I wouldn't overthink this too much, but it is something to be aware of. Uh, when you looked at my research currently, as far as tier 13, I am maxed out for uh, Swordsman, which are trees. I'm fully maxed out on this up until tier 14, which I'll be able to start soon. And I'm fully maxed out for Spearmen, which is Huntresses. This also means that I can run with Miners and Bombers. Or for Lich, I got Scorpions and Skeletons. I'm going to skip Rockin' altogether because I just don't care. Uh, but before I even start tier 14, my archers will also be fully maxed out. So for me, since I focus on the two at the beginning, um, now that those are maxed out, I start working on the third. So the third one I picked is archers. So that means as far as human troops, I'll have spears, archers, and swords. Fully maxed out. If I switch to dwarf, that would be miners, riflemen, and bombardiers. That's not bad. Mechs are a little bit behind, but if miners keep getting buffs, it might not be bad at all. And for Lich, I'll have skeletons, warlocks, and scorpions. Again, the spiders will be slightly underwhelming compared to other people, but the front line is really important, and my siege will still be really good. Rockin', I just don't care about Rockin'. Personal problems. And then for Sliff, that means that my trees, huntresses, and guardians will be maxed out. For Sliff, I like that because I'll use the trees for the siege, I'll use huntresses for PvP, and the guardians I'll use for everything. So that's my rationale on focusing on different research. This is not the most comprehensive guide in the world, but it is to give you guys an idea that focusing and becoming a specialist in this game at whatever you want can help you out. If we're a jack of all trades, then that's not necessarily where strengths come from in a team oriented game. Um, to be a jack of all trades, typically you'll want to be some sort of specialist. For example, there's somebody in the OGC community chat and also a friend of mine that focus on Siege. So their research and everything is maxed out on Siege. The other ones, as far as I know, are not all maxed out. They might have like one more that's maxed out. They can go hit a wall and get almost 4 mil wall damage in one hit. On a war server, when you're trying to take a city as fast as possible, that is huge. He's a specialist in that sense. When it comes to PvP, he's not going to be your top dog for that, but when it comes to performing his niche, that's how he's good at, or that's what he's good at. For me, I focus on the main troops on the different races that I enjoy playing, which is mostly Sliff and Human. Throw in Lich if I have to, just because they're super overpowered. So for Sliff and Human, I feel totally confident with my setup. I showed you my siege. My siege is 178 research into my siege. That is horrible. That is so bad. But the thing is, my role for my team, my niche is not breaking down walls. I don't care how much wall damage I do. My role is to protect my teammates. So I am there to siege people back to the capital, which with these top three as Lich, I can send anybody to the capital, no problem. And my second role is I'm there to PvP people. I'm there to fight. So I'm there to fight and send people to the capital. Based on my research, I'm giving myself the best opportunity to do that. Our friend that focuses on siege, he can take down the wall. It would take me 4 attacks to equal one of his. And I can protect him while he does that from the enemies. So it is a team game. I highly recommend finding a team, a house, having different roles, having different specialties. That way you guys can create counters. And if we're just putting points into research, maybe the big takeaway from all of this is if we're just putting points into research, maybe we should think about what our goals are. If we don't have goals, come up with the goals. For me, with all of my focuses, this is my number one above everything else. I even am throwing all my chakra and stuff into this. I want my front line to be as good as possible. specifically for Siege, but I'll also take it for PvP. It's a blend. I want my swordsman for human to be as strong as possible. I want my scorpions for lich to be as strong as possible to help me in PvP, and I want my trees as strong as possible for siege. So that is my number one. My number two, and mostly because I'm playing Sliv now and I want bonuses from the Huntresses, is going to be the Spearmen for Human, Miners, Skeletons, Samurai, and Huntresses, with a close third of Archers, because I still need that range damage. Although I still think the melee troops are way more important, solely because heroes do so much damage. So, anyways, this was brought to you guys from the Academy of Conquest. Oops, sorry, got a random pop up. Another random pop up. So this is brought to you guys from the Academy of Conquest. Go check them out. It is a friend site, another community resource. You can learn all about different conversions. If you guys haven't liked the videos, please like the video, subscribe if you have not already, and we'll have another video coming to you soon. Have a great day, guys.